Hey everybody, welcome on into our first tutorial of Clay Share Day. We have Delvin Goode joining us. He's currently in the Army and is an artist, and you can find out more about him at his Instagram, which is D Goode Art. DGOODE Art. All right. So he's going to share with us some Speedball products and going to answer questions that you might have about using Speedball. You know, I have used Speedball for years. Actually, Speedball was the very first sponsor I had back in 2012 when I started doing live broadcasting. They came on and would always send me underglazes, and whenever I teach workshops, they'd always give me underglazes to take with me so that the students would have products, and then we could leave them there wherever I was teaching for the art center to have. So I really love Speedball. They're a really great company. I've been lucky enough to tour the factory in North Carolina. If you are ever down there, reach out to Speedball if you want to tour the factory. They would love to have you come by and see how everything is made. But enough about that. Let's go on over to Del and see what he's got to share with us. Hey, Del.
Hey, Jessica, what's going on?
We are so excited to have you here joining us for the Clay Share birthday.
Yeah, this is great. This is great.
Yeah, so do you want to tell folks a little bit about yourself?
So yeah, like you said, I'm Decal Art on Instagram, and I guess that's kind of what I go by as an artist. I'm a soldier, and so been doing that. Just hit the 20-year mark this year, so having fun with that. And then I am like yourself, been sponsored by Speedball now for a couple of years, so that's been a great relationship. But I've been using Speedball a lot longer than a lot longer than that. So especially like the wheels, all my wheels are clay bosses. I have two currently in my studio now, and then one in storage, just in case I make it back to Alabama, I'll pull it out, do some throwing out there. And then just been using the bats for years, like love their bat system. Makes it really easy. And so, yeah. And then, I was scared for years to use underglaze. I didn't understand what underglaze was. And when I finally started playing around with it, I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is kind of because, I was a painter for years, and then I wanted my ceramics to start looking like my paintings if I could figure that out. And I couldn't do it with, the other, your typical glazes. And then somebody's like, underglaze, like you need to try out underglaze. And, long story short, I ended up with Speedball because just the colors, like I needed the colors to be what I needed the colors to be, and tried a couple other brands. But once I landed on Speedball, like, it's just automatic what I know is going to come out that kiln, regardless of the temperature that I fire it at. And I just love the product. Like it helped me take my art to the next level. So yeah, so I'm definitely, not only am I sponsored, I am a true Speedball fan. So I truly believe in their product. So
Fantastic. We are so glad to have you here. I can't say enough good things about Speedball, and I'm glad that they recommended you to us to join us for today.
Yeah.
All right. So what you got for us?
So what I'm going to do today, I figured, because I was even getting questions this morning, actually, before we came on about my particular technique of using underglaze. So with my technique, I use underglaze on already bisqueware. Like I've tried the greenware thing a couple of times. It didn't work out for me. And then it was also a matter of kind of necessity in a sense, like being moving around every 1 to 2 years in the Army, and then not knowing when I'm going to have a studio close by or not close by. I wanted to kind of minimize the amount of firings I was doing, and just all kinds of, like, I just kind of need to, if I can get some of these techniques down without having to like pre-fire the color that I want and then go back over it, do some more techniques, fire it again, like, and just time too, because I don't have a lot of time in the studio, So I was like, how can I do everything I need to do on bisqueware? So, it took some trial and error, but we figured it out. And I know that's a lot of the questions on how do I get it to stick and all that stuff and get the smooth layering and stuff. So yeah. So I'll just demonstrate that. I have a couple of bisqueware slip cast tumblers that I can use for the demonstration today. and I'll also show some of my stenciling techniques. So yeah, so for this one, I just figured I'd do a simplified kind of design just to kind of show the layering technique, and then just how I apply just two different methods of applying for me the underglaze. So a lot of my stuff, if you look through a lot of my designs, they start out on the computer. So I'll use like Adobe Illustrator and a vinyl cutting machine, and I'll design all my stencils prior to, so I'll show them out real good. So this is just kind of like my stencil packet that I'll use for the design today. Like I said, simple to me, but you'll see the process, so I'll pick out two colors, and then we'll just go from there. And I just kind of wanted to show, like, so this is actually the 3 stencils that I'll use for this design today. And this is them covered up, because I'll use transfer paper to kind of bring everything from the paper to the bisque piece. And then you'll see this, that's why you'll see with it, doing this on bisqueware is a lot easier using this method. So just pop one up and just pick a spot for it. And like I said, we're just demoing today. We'll just squeeze in the vinyl. So this is interior grade vinyl. And what that is it's just like if you use your typical vinyls there, you can put them on cars, vehicles, windows, stuff like that for businesses. So this is interior grade. So like the same kind that you see like in a gallery, so that they can, put words and people's names and stuff on the walls and then peel it down without damaging the wall. So that's that grade of vinyl. So what it allows you to do is it doesn't stick to the bisqueware. It doesn't leave a lot of tacky residue on it. So you can apply it, take it off, apply it, take it off. So I'll do that. I have 2 of them because I'm going to do a brush on technique, and then I'll do an airbrush technique as well.
Cool. And so how do you make your stickers? Do you have them made for you, your stencils, or do you use a Cricut or something and just print them out that way?
So if you have a Cricut or a Silhouette, you can do the same things I do. So we started off with that in our home studio. We started off with a Cricut, and then we eventually moved up to a bigger vinyl cutting machine that holds 24-inch rolls of vinyl, and we just load it up. And so my undergrad degree is graphic design. So very, very familiar with using Adobe Illustrator. So you need a vector-based program for this. So like Inkscape is available as well. It can kind of do the same things once you learn it. That's a free one online, I think, still. If you don't want to, cough up the Adobe bucks. but I use the whole suite. So like I said, I still do a lot of graphic design on the side. So I use pretty much most of the Adobe programs. So it's kind of easy for me to use Illustrator. So I use that. I'll make all my custom stencils. And for my designs, I don't always get the stencil right. It's just kind of imagining, you go to the end state. So like for this, for instance, so it's like, how can I use stencils to get to this end state? So you start there, and then you kind of backtrack your stencils in your mind. And it's kind of a experience game, guessing game. And then a lot of times I won't know until I start layering them, like if it's right or wrong. And sometimes I have to go back in the studio, So with this one, I'm just going to leave it just like this because I'm just going to paint on it using a brush. But this one I'm going to continue to cover up because I'm going to use an airbrush on this one. And again, it makes it a lot easier to use the transfer paper for it. And these are using this transfer paper is from, years of doing commission, like paintings and all kinds of other crafts other than ceramics. And then I realized, like, hey, this is a quick way to mask stuff off using the same things that we use to do any of our woodworking projects that we'll do out of the house. And it just makes it a lot easier. So I tell people, like, there's probably other things that you're doing in your studio that'll probably help you out with your ceramic practice. You just don't realize it yet. You probably have skills somewhere else or tools somewhere else that you can bring to the studio. Then I used to use painter's tape a lot to mask off my pieces.
So you slip cast tumblers. Do you cast them yourself, or do you get those as a bisque piece?
I cast them myself. So I just started this process. Like I'm not even a year into slip casting, but it's been fun. It's been fun.
It's a journey.
Yeah, it's been fun. Good friend of mine, John R. Hamilton III Ceramics, or John R. Hamilton 3 Ceramics on Instagram. Like, he actually came through and taught me his method of slip casting, and it's been great. It has been great. So, I mean, I always text him like, hey, like, this ain't working. He's like, shoot me a picture of that. And then he'll laugh at me, call me a dummy, tell me what I did wrong. And we keep rolling. But it's been great. It's been great. So there we go. So we got the pieces. We got it all masked off. I got the painter's tape on the top. Like I said, I use it both. Painter's tape has the same kind of tackiness as the interior vinyl. So you can use that too to kind of mask off your pieces. And I think the biggest thing is the next step is prepping the glaze for either process. And let's see. So as you know, like you said, and I think we use brown too, because I know we were talking about that earlier. The brown. So some of the colors, especially with Speedball, all the colors come super compact, and I usually get messages about that a lot. Like, it's so thick, like it wasn't painting on right, it wasn't doing well. A lot of that is because it's just packed full of ingredients. It's packed with all that goodness. But what that allows you to do is to basically stretch your dollar and dilute it out a little bit, and you can use it in multiple ways. And that's what I love about it. Like, it takes me a long time to go through one of these, and I can get through a lot of work, especially with the airbrush. I'll have these for a long time. So I'll just pick my favorite is saffron yellow. It's between that one and royal blue. So just for me, brushing on, so it comes out pretty. Oop, that's a lot, but that's okay, because I'll just pour it back in when I'm done anyway. So, and I'll just add, for brush on, just not too much water. And what I've found is, for the bisque method, that works best, so that your pieces don't, or so that the glaze doesn't pop off. There's two things you can do. As you're applying it, you can grab a heat gun, and you can heat gun your pieces, and kind of set that underglaze, and that'll kind of help it adhere to the piece. But what I think works better, and it kind of minimizes you having to use the heat gun. And that it could also be that I'm in Arizona. It's already fire hot this early in the morning, so that's kind of helping out in the garage. But I use Darwin 7, and it's just like just a couple of drops of it. So just a little bit of Darwin 7, a little bit of water, and then my favorite thing is I use a milk frother, actually, to kind of break everything up and get it all smooth for my application. So
that milk frother is brilliant.
And it all started because, and I'll show you some examples of it. So, especially with the airbrush, but when we get to there, I'll show you the differences because I found a piece prior to milk frothing and then what they look like after milk frothing. to kind of show the difference. And it really was just me just sitting in the studio saying, I got to find a way to mix these things. Cause like I said, like Speedball, there's a lot of stuff in there and it seems like it's grainy. But I was like, man, I think there's just a lot of untapped potential because I was mixing it by hand using a filter. And then you have a lot of, chunks of stuff, of materials and stuff, and on top of the screen. And I was like, it's got to be a better way. And we happen to have a milk frother that we hadn't used yet. And so I asked my wife nicely, can I go grab that milk frother? And then that kind of changed everything. And so, yeah, I'm just gonna, with this one, because I'm gonna do like 3 to 4 coats this way. And I know I'm splashing it out of my little stencil here, but that's okay. So, and I'll just let that set for a minute. And then for my airbrush, I'll go ahead and prep a whole new, actually I'm gonna use the cream. I'm gonna play with some colors I haven't used yet today. Let's go. So I like to put it in a mason jar because that allow me to really get that frother in there and blend everything up. Like I said, a little bit of Darwin. And for this one, I'm going to add a lot more water. And I have a couple of frothers in the studio. Like this one doesn't hit as hard. They're both by Zulai Kitchen. But I've had this one for a really long time. So it's kind of tapered down a little bit. So if I don't want it, so it kind of blends it a little bit more smooth. So, and what I want to do for the airbrush gun is you want to get it to consistency of skim milk is what I usually say. And you'll know you do it right because even though I frothed it, like you see it calm down really quick, that's when you know you got a pretty good mix of water and a little bit of Darwin in there. If it stays frothed for a while, just add just a little bit of water. It's a fine line going into the airbrush gun between too much water and not enough. So just like it settled down really quick and it looks like skim milk in there. So it's a pretty good consistency. And I'll go ahead and do, I got my airbrush gun off camera, but I'm gonna go back and forth between the two. But you'll hear me spraying it. So this is my favorite type of airbrush gun to use for this. The trigger method. It says to provide the right amount of force to get the glaze, especially because sometimes you might put it in too thick, and you need a little bit of leeway before it gunks the whole thing up. Like trust me, I've gunked these things up several times, so I'm very familiar with this particular airbrush gun and how to clean it. And safety wise, real quick, let me turn my fan on so I can pull that stuff up away from me. And then I'll typically wear have my respirator on, but I got it pretty far away from me right now, and it's blowing immediately out of my garage. So.
So I just want to let everybody know, I see a few questions coming in. Dell is adding water to thin down the underglazes and then a product called Darvan, DARVAN 7. It's a deflocculant similar to sodium silicate. It just doesn't get as hard as sodium silicate does. And it really helps with breaking up the chalkiness, and it helps with blendability and brushability.
Yeah, so especially I know I've had a lot of people talk to me about the brown in Speedball. Like use the Darwin in the brown, it'll help smooth it out, and you'll get a lot of great results. So with that, so this is the piece I was working on, the series I was working on, and this one's, I don't know if you can see, but this was me hand mixing it. You know, and this is a pretty funny project. My son drew this design. He was in trouble one day. It was pretty funny. But I told him to do some artwork to get out of the doghouse, and this is some of the artwork he started drawing. And then we made a series out of it, and we all laugh about it now. But so it was kind of not, I wanted that solid coat, but this was a lot of work. I was hand mixing it, trying to dilute it, adding the water, versus, you know, when I started using the milk frother, this is the results you get, with all the colors, blending it, maximizing what you get. Now, granted, this is low fire, and this is cone 5. So even with that, you know, it's a huge difference using the frothers. You know, the same thing with this. So it allows you, like I said, to just maximize that color, maximize your underglaze. So let's see, I'll go back, do another coat on here. And, you know, when you're brushing it on, you know, change your directions with every coat. And that'll also help you with the brush on technique. That helps you get rid of those streaks by changing the coat, changing the direction every time. And we'll just get another coat on here. And then, so what I'm doing with the airbrush is I'll go up and down, one pass, and then I'll come back and do it again, one pass, and then that's it. So it ends up being, for me, about 12 passes with the airbrush gun, just light coats. And so what that'll do, so it's different from this, because even with this, you can see it's still some streaking, but it's getting solid. It is going to get solid, right? But you'll still see there'll still be a little bit of texture in there, versus if you do the airbrush method. And the key is, you know, those thin coats, you know, keep continuously building that up. And that's how, you know, I'll get that smooth decal look finish. But either method is good. Like I said, it just depends on what's your end result. So for me, like, I've done a lot of painting. One of the things I used to paint a lot is water bottles, like the stainless steel water bottles. And so if I was like, you know, using those same stencils, if I can get my ceramics to look like those water bottles. And so for me, I was like, I needed to find a way to get that surface to look as smooth as possible. And so that's when I, you know, switched to the airbrush and just kind of experimenting. And then, you know, milk frother was, like I said, the first key to success on that technique. And then Darwin 7, I think, has changed everything as well, because it allows me to kind of actually be kind of rough with the underglaze while it's on the bisqueware, and feel fairly confident I'm not going to peel it off. It happens every now and again, but you know, it's easy to go back and fix it.
Some folks are asking, what brand airbrush are you using?
So, funny enough, I think they're both like, it's really, I just got them off of Amazon. Like, it's like a $40 airbrush. It's like a different brand every time, and they all look the same. I think the first time it was like a Vivio or something like that. That's why I was like, just look for that trigger style. They're about $40, I think, right now. In the and I'll show my little motor setup here. So not the super duper expensive ones. I think I caught this one on sale at the time. So yeah, this one is Bevo Home. And I don't even know if they make these anymore. they sent me some free ice cube makers when I bought it, so that was kind of cool. So so yeah, it's just a Vivo home one. And I think now they're like anywhere between 80 to 130, depending on which air compressor that you buy. So this will be the last coat that I brush on, because this is pretty solid at this point. And so you can see that's what, 4 coats, really thin down, not as thin down as the airbrush gun, but that's 4 coats of that. And like I said, let me grab it real quick. So, okay, sorry about that. So for sake of time, I'm gonna dry it up just a little bit with my heat gun. Like I said, it's a time thing, but it's gonna help set it anyway. So like I said, if you don't have the Darwin, the heat gun is your next best thing. Once you want to try to put another decal or stencil on top of it. The best thing is time. If you have the time, because then that allows the chemicals to bond a little bit more. Sometimes with the heat gun, you can dry it before those different layers have time to connect properly. So if you have the time, that's the best. But if you don't have time, like the heat gun's the next best thing. But because I've added the Darwin, like it's pretty set already. But we'll just make sure it's just dried up completely, so I can add the decal to it. All right. And I'll just spray another coat with the airbrush. And said it takes a little bit more coats with it. But it's the same thing if you're spray painting. You don't want to, do it all in one shot. And I think that's also where people get into trouble with any kind of underglaze or glazing is, well, underglaze in particular is trying to get it all in one shot. Sometimes you can get into a little bit of trouble, and then you'll have it falling off, bubbling up, things of that nature. So just take your time, slow and steady wins the race. So now that this is dried up, I can add the second decal. Now you see I'm pretty rough with it right now, so hopefully I don't make a liar out of myself and then this all peels up in the end. But it should be good. But like I said, the interior vinyl gives you enough tack to stick, especially at this stage. It's enough tack to stick, but it's not enough tack to pull it up most of the time. Obviously, you know, you got to prep your surface really good too. So I wiped these big square pieces down again this morning. And gave them time to dry before we started today. You, you can't tell, but it's kind of bubbling up on some places. It's not sticking good. So you just go back to your heat gun. So heat gun is important in this part. If you don't have a heat gun, you can use a hair dryer. If you have a hair dryer, you'll do the exact same thing. And just kind of tap it down. All right. So now my other stencil is on there. And I can mix up my next color. And let's do brown for demonstration purposes.
That's the one I get the most comments and questions about, is the brown, because it is a little chalky and chunky, and so you just got to work with it a bit to get it to the consistency you want.
Yeah, so I'm shaking it, and yeah, so it's a little bit different than the rest of them. Fully admit that. But again, like, this is that brown. So that's, I use the exact same brown to get this honeycomb technique. So it does work. And it doesn't take much because I'm brushing it on and just on one piece. But I will do the same thing, add a little bit of Delvin to it. Some water, get my trusty milk frother. So I'm gonna froth it down here so it don't splash over everything. And then it's a little bit looser than I want, so I'm just add a little bit more glaze to it. Or yeah, add a little bit more of the glaze in there. So you'll find the gray does the same thing. I found sometimes the black will mess with you a little bit, but as you can see, I got it really good texture there. And that's the brown. And so I'm just gonna start painting that on. And we'll just do the same thing, just layer that up. And so especially when you're doing it all on bisque like this, like the heat gun helps seal that stencil really well. And so you can be kind of loose and crazy like this. Sometimes it'll seep, but if you sealed it right, you know, you'll be good to go. And so I've been using the cream on this one. So you see it's a pretty good cream layer. I'm just gonna heat gun it. So this is my airbrush one. So bring back my stencil. All right, get that out of the way. Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm just, like I said, sealing it again with the heat gun. It's a little bit easier because I've been using the airbrush on this one, so the layers are smooth. It's a smooth surface. And so with this one, because I was painting on the other one, it took a little bit for the vinyl to kind of settle in on it. But that's why I like this method, you know, but it's for the end state because I want it to have that smooth surface. So it just depends on what you like. If you like a little bit more texture, definitely continue to paint it on. If you want that, if you want a smoother surface, you know, try out the airbrush. So we'll stick with the brown again because that way I can show you just airbrush wise the same thing and how the brown does work. Like I said, add a little bit of Delvin, and then we're just going to add a little bit more water than what I did before. And we'll still froth it. See, the froth went away relatively quick. It looks like skim milk, kind of that consistency, so it's ready for the airbrush. Sometimes I got to wake them up a little bit with water to get them going. And then I'll do those same, you know, passes like I did before. And sometimes you'll see it you'll see it start to separate a little bit when you do water them down. Just blend them back up real quick with the frother before your next application, and it's good to go.
Hello, I'm sorry to interrupt. I somehow lost the audio, but I'm back. So now I can ask questions. Folks are typing in and they're like, sorry about that, everyone. For whatever reason, my audio decided, no, it's the birthday. We're not going to work for a bit. So folks are asking, is there a certain type of vinyl interior grade that they should look for?
So I use Oracal 631. And I believe you can find it now at a lot of your hobby stores. I think Michael's and I think Hobby Lobby maybe. We order it from signwarehouse.com actually. But we have seen it local. But the key is the 631, interior grade 631. And fantastic. And then the R tape, like this is a money maker right here. So this will allow you to transfer your decals as well as, like you saw, quickly mask off your pieces. All right. So as these different layers are setting, I'll show you some of the stuff.
We had a question about when you're brushing. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, bro.
No, you go ahead and I'll ask at the end. So we had a comment on when you're brushing and you're going in the different directions, do you get a crisscross pattern with that? Does that happen or how do you avoid that?
You do. I do. I did it. I get a crisscross pattern, but as you continue to change that direction, it fills those crisscross patterns in. And then especially if you're going to clear coat it anyway, a lot of that stuff will go away if you did the layers properly. And I think it helps if you thin it down like I do. It kind of helps with that. Once you get it into the final or the glaze firing. That answered it.
Yeah, that does. And then we had a question about the smoothness of the surface. You're using slip cast pieces. If someone's wheel throwing, would it be as smooth, and will the process still work?
Yeah, so
you showed a wheel thrown one a little earlier.
Yeah, so these are all wheel thrown.
So the answer is you can use it on any way
anything.
Making method.
Any make. So it's just it doesn't matter. And so like this is one of the ones I've been working on lately.
I love those. They're great.
Again,
someone was asking if you designed your shirt.
I did actually. So this is this is off my t-shirt site, but this is John R. Hamilton 3 ceramics design. He let me put his one of his designs on my t-shirt site to represent him. So I figured I'd represent him today. You know, so it's available right now if you want to go on there, support him. But yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so he designed this a long time ago. And so what I did, I secretly went on his website. This is a sculpture piece off of his website. And I made it into a sticker form. And then I was like, well, yeah, we got to put that on a shirt, you know. So I made a whole section with him just on my site so people can go support him as an artist as well. And then it's fabulous.
Yeah.
So again, and then with the what the airbrush allows me to do is that shadowing technique, where you can see the lighter dots, and then it's darker around the outside. Same way I did this. So that light color you see is the same color as the dark color. It's just this is 12 layers of spray. This is like 4, but it's the same color. It's just a matter of when you build it up with that airbrush method, it allows you to have a little bit more fun with depth and texture, not textures, but depth of your pieces. It's just the sky's the limit on how much of that you want to do.
So you'll put a clear glaze on top of that after it's dry all the way?
Yes. And
do you airbrush that on too, or do you dip it or spray it on?
I typically dip. So we'll go, I'm gonna paint one more.
And what glaze do you use? Because I know folks are gonna want to know what clear glaze do you prefer?
So I was using the, what is it called? Pure Brilliance. That's what I was using for my low fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Duncan Pure Brilliance.
So I'm kind of wigging out a little bit. Hopefully I can still find it later on. I'm good for now. But I was using that one, and then I'm a bad potter. I like my mid fire. Let me go find it real quick because I never remember what it is.
Well, I know that Mako bought a lot of Duncan's product lines, so Mako might be making the Pure Brilliance. I'm not sure if Mako will.
I hope so.
We'll have to wait and see. Yeah.
So for the my Cone 5, I use the Sahara zinc-free clear, and I've had great success with that. But so, and again, I'll bring these two up. So these are both porcelain. These are both Nara porcelain. This one is not clear. and this one is cleared. So this is with the Sahara zinc free. And this is just, just glazed on the inside, or yeah, clear glaze on the inside, left raw on the outside.
Fantastic. I did just check. It looks like Mako did buy the Pure Brilliance. So I think you might be safe.
Okay.
All right, we got about a minute left to wrap this.
About a minute left. Okay. Well, let's just go ahead and peel this puppy off and see what happens.
So it went by way fast, way fast.
Way fast. But there you go. And then now I'll go back and I have a stencil that I'll cover this up with, and then I'll go and have fun all over around the rest of it while that's covered up. And then I'll peel it off and it'll be there.
Look at that. I love it.
We'll have fun. So yeah, so the brown does work. It's a beautiful color. Just be patient with it.
Goode Art, that's DGOODE Art on Instagram. Be sure to follow him there, and you can check out his pottery and t-shirts too, because he's got some fabulous t-shirts. So thank you for sharing all of that awesome Speedball information. And now we know what to do with that brown Speedball underglaze when it's thick and chalky. We know how to fix that. Thank you, Del. And thank you everyone for joining us. We're gonna take a little break and we'll be back in just a minute. We are gonna have a Mako tutorial with Todd Hickerson. He's gonna come and share some stroke and coat tutorial ideas.